Daren, Diego, thank you guys for being here. What do you guys think of the ride over here? The traffic and craziness?
It was crazy. It was pretty LA standard, though, for a Friday. Beautiful weather, though, and canyons and coming up from Malibu was awesome.
Yeah, what, I got a quick question. We were talking about Temecula, and when I left yesterday, it was 66 degrees, but it didn't feel like LA 66 degrees. Like, it felt warmer. Am I tripping, or?
No, Temecula is very warm. Once you get inland, they're right up the corridor of the 15. It's nice and warm, so it'll feel warmer than it is until you get up into the mountains.
But it feels warmer than what it is, right?
Yeah, because you don't have the same breeze from the coast coming up like you do here. So I think that throws a lot of people off. But yeah, Temecula is really nice and warm in the summertime.
Yeah, we were cooking. It was 66, and we were cooking, and especially because we did the hot air balloon. They were like, dress up warm because we're meeting everybody at 5:30 in the morning. So we were like, oh shit, we better dress up warm. We were cooking. It was hot, and then my wife was like, it doesn't feel 66. I go, it's 66. Ask Siri, it's 66. So anyways, that's just something I noticed.
Yeah.
But the ride over here was amazing.
Yeah, it's perfect. I mean, what a great day to skip work and be out riding.
Yeah.
That lobster was awesome for lunch too. I appreciate you pointing that out.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that place is a poppin' spot. Like I said, they have two of them. So we tried one of them, the West Coast one.
Oh, we got to go back now.
I've been trying for a minute to try to get the East Coast. I can't execute it. I know it's going to be good, but I can't execute it when you have both choices. It's like, why would you even risk
the places that I've gone and got one of each, I've always regretted getting the cold one, which would be the East Coast. I've always just gone for the warm baked West Coast version. So
yeah, you can't go wrong.
Nope.
Yeah, and it's not cheap. It's not crazy expensive, but it's not cheap. So you just want to enjoy it the right way.
Yeah.
And then what are you riding right now?
I'm riding a 2022 Energica Ego.
Is that a gas vehicle?
No.
I'm kidding, man. I'm kidding. No, it's all electric.
It is all electric.
It's a new company, correct?
They've been around for a few years, but they're based in Italy, so they're imported. Unlike the Livewire, which is here in the U.S., and Zero, which is the other major electric bike manufacturer. So
Zero's been along. I think.
Yeah,
longest,
Zero
right?
is probably the most well known because they've had bikes out probably the longest, and they've got several different models, and they're based here in California. So they've got a lot of dealerships, just in and around normal gas motorcycles. So their name has been out there a little bit longer. Energica, people haven't probably seen that much of them because they're more based in Europe and Italy. They're actually made right down the road from Ducati. So they've got a lot of that flair and that design in them. But they're a lot more well known, obviously, in Europe. And what they're really well known for is racing in MotoGP. So they have an all-electric division, which is called Moto E. And if you YouTube or you watch it live, the Moto E division during a MotoGP race, what you're seeing is all identical Energica track bikes, which is very close to the street bike that I have and was riding today.
It's a beautiful bike. It looks like a track bike.
Yeah. So that's kind of how they were born. Their sole focus when they formed the company was to make this track bike for Moto E. And so it's kind of neat when you do watch them race because you're watching basically different riders race on the identical same bike, which no other division does. They're always scattered with different manufacturers. So some bikes are faster than other bikes, but here it's the playing field is equal. So when you see them start to open up gaps and stuff during the race, you're actually watching the difference in the skill of the rider. So I find that very interesting when the bikes are all the same.
No, very. What other technologies does the bike have? Obviously, it's electric. Obviously, it's it's electric. The suspension. I mean, what kind of technology do they put in research and development for the bike?
So a lot of the bike is the same as you would get on any other bike. Like if you were riding a Ducati or any other sport bike, you can get the same suspension, the same brakes. You can put the same rims, the same tires. None of that is unique to it being electric. Pretty much what you look at in an electric motorcycle is the battery obviously replaces the gas tank, and the electric motor replaces the gas motor.
Right.
Other than that, the frame, almost everything else can be swapped between bikes. So the neat thing about what these bikes have, and Livewire has a lot of the same commonalities, is they have the latest technology in battery size. So this bike has the largest battery pack that you can get in a production bike right now, which is 21.5 kilowatt hours. So that's good because that increases your range. And then it's got the biggest motor, most horsepower that you can get in an electric bike, which is nice because that obviously gives you a lot of performance. So it's rated at 171 peak horsepower and 159 foot-pounds of torque.
That's a beast.
So when that's available to you all the time from 0 to 150, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's a beast. Just real quick, Diego, what are you riding today?
I knew that was going to come.
What do you?
So today,
so you set this up today.
I set this up, the electric motorcycle podcast, right?
Yeah.
But I showed up on an old school Harley Davidson.
Hey, that's no slouch.
I'm even dressing old.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot. I forgot the gasser that Diego rode in on today.
So
20 years old.
20-year-old gasser that I have, but I still love that bike like hell. Well, the Livewire right now is getting tuned up. It's getting maintained. We have a bunch of events that we're going to talk about that are coming up in the next couple of months. And so the bike's going at the shop. But right now I'm riding around in a 2002 Harley Davidson VRSCA. For those of you guys who don't know what that is, that's a V-Rod.
Yes, sir.
So basically
Stainless steel,
chrome, anodized aluminum. And basically if Porsche and Harley Davidson had a baby, that is what they had.
Isn't there a company that's converting regular motorcycles into electric motorcycles, where they're doing like a drop-in motor?
I know that there's
Electric
a few.
motor,
There's a few outfits back east. One of them is Sanduka Cycles. They do their own kind of. You tell them what project you want, and they'll kind of work with you. And they also have some bikes. So there are some project bikes. A couple of guys that I know online, like Scott Chow. He's converted his Ducati and he's put a Energica powertrain inside of it.
Nice.
And it looks really nice. You saw the final product?
I can't wait till that one's done.
Oh, my God. That thing
And the performance on it.
It's going to be insane. It's going to be insane. And so, there's a lot of people doing kit bikes now because it's just that much easier,
Well, it just makes sense. Like there's another company I saw. They just make a rim for bicycles with the motor in it.
Mm-hmm, the hub motor.
You just order the hub and install it and do wiring, put a throttle, and there you got
yourself an e-bike out of your regular bike.
Yeah.
So it's you're seeing a bunch of outfits now, and people are doing projects like that. I mean, Stefano, which is the guy who runs Energica here in the United States, he even told me once I told him, it would be nice if I ever made a V-Rod electric. He goes, well, if you ever need something, call me up. I can hook you up with a controller.
I think that's an invite. I think that's an invite.
I can invite you. I can get you a controller, battery, and motor. So.
Yeah.
On that topic, he said he cannot keep used bikes or salvage bikes because of the demand for parts like that. Because people want to do exactly what Scott's doing, and take. If you happen to find a salvage bike out there, people are taking them and throwing them in other things. So it's going to be a huge market.
Yeah, it's going to be a humongous market. Back to my question to you about technology is, I haven't seen many companies do it the way that Buell did it. But when Buell was really popular, and it's still out, I believe the 1125 is still performing on racetracks. But the technology that they had, like, the oil where you put the oil was on the swing arm. The swing arm had, that's your oil tank. Your frame was your gas tank. The top, of the gas was, an air intake. So they really they did, special technology or special engineering for that kind of stuff. And I know electric bikes are, again, electric and fast and performing, but are they doing anything like they're all using ABS, right? We're using Brembo, top-notch suspensions, inverted. Yours is inverted front end?
I believe so, yeah. It's Olin's. So.
Oh yeah, which is top-notch brand. So they're putting top quality into all these bikes.
What they're doing also, in addition to that, they're putting a lot of technology behind them when it comes to information technology. So, for example, the Livewire itself is a fully connected bike. So when you get the Livewire, you get an app. That app not only connects to the bike, but also connects to the internet. And the bike is fully connected to the internet. So at any time, how fast the bike is going, where the bike is at, if somebody's even tipped it, or all kinds of parameters that the app gives you that lets you know that the bike is nearby or it's been stolen, or you can mark it as stolen and the bike literally stops working.
It stops working. Same on your guys' bike?
No,
Not your guys' bike, but
Yeah.
the bike that you're riding.
No, the Energica does not have like a connected type of capability like that. There is an app that connects via Bluetooth. It doesn't connect via internet. It's one of the things that I believe they're working on. They want to add, but like I said, the company, and it's kind of, you can tell in the product, but the company, when they were formed, it was specifically to make this track bike, and they really aimed for the equal performance, right? They wanted to make a sport bike that you would ride and say, I love riding that sport bike. It just happens to be electric. And they didn't want to feel like you were skimping out on any of the performance features of a actual sport bike. And they made it for, like I said, for racing on the track, for MotoGP. So you can tell when you get a street legal version of the bike, you can tell it's like, yeah, all they really cared about, not all they cared about, but their focus was the track. And
Right.
so some of these other things that are more like a consumer product that you would like to have and stuff like that, it's kind of been lower on their priority list. And but the benefit of that is you get the performance of the top of the line stuff, and it's really that's what's a real joy to ride.
Yeah, you hit it on the head. I mean, I was lucky enough to be at corporate for Harley Davidson and hosted by Bill Davidson and the vice president of engineering for the Livewire group. And I asked him, point blank, I said, why the Livewire? He goes, it's an opportunity. Harley Davidson has always been a company that likes to innovate, likes to invent, likes to go into new markets. And this is just another opportunity that we see. So putting an electric motor in a bike is something that is dear to our heart. And then the vice president of engineering comes over. He says, and we were set out to develop the best handling Harley Davidson we can get our hands on. You just proved that right now, how you were zipping through traffic really fine, no issues determined. That's what they achieved. I mean, I think they did a good job for being a motorcycle company not known to build performance bikes. They made something halfway in the middle.
They're really killing it. They're really killing it, because I was having the conversation with the guys from BMW, and they were like, the R18B that looks like the Streak Line, there's a lot more they can do. Like, everybody agrees it's an 80% bike, but they're selling it right now. And on the contrary, you look at Harley Davidson and you look at that Pan America, the first time they did that, and I mean, every review is just, they did a really good job for being their first time on this.
The stats are it's the number one sold adventure bike in the world.
It's fucking, it's
in the US?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it's always going to be in the U.S., period. I mean, I think California by itself is like number one state in the world that sells the most bikes, and Los Angeles is like number one in the world. Or Los Angeles is like number one in sales, and California is the number one, period, of motorcycle sales. So it's usually always going to be here. But, I was with Rawhide, and they do all the BMW training. And, before they got it, they were like, we're going to get Pan Americas too. And they have Pan Americas now. So they did a great job. And the Livewire, like I told you earlier, this is the furthest I took it. I feel 60% comfortable with the bike, compared to the 3 rides that I did before this. I could imagine once you get to that 80, 90, and I'm like at 100%, that thing does perform. It was one of the first things I said when I was going to Malibu. I was like, this suspension's really fucking good. And this is a good suspension. The handling... Oh,
and you haven't tuned it because you can adjust the suspension, fully adjustable.
Adjust it to my weight. I haven't done any of that. So yeah, today's the day I've liked it the most. Today's the day I liked it the most.
Well, man, we should join us for a little 500-mile ride.
Yeah,
No,
let me know.
we just need to spend a day out in the canyons. Just go out to Malibu. We know where one of the best chargers in the area is, right next to our lobster rolls. Just spend a day out there riding. Up in the canyons, that's where you're really going to fall in love with the bike, because the way these things flow through the twisties and without the traffic, it will change the way you think about riding motorcycles, because the torque is always there. whenever, like we were passing people today, whenever you need to pass somebody, it's just, you don't even think about it. Your mind and your body just goes, and the bike is there with you. You don't have to worry about shifting and spending a day. And I've come up here just to do that. And at the end of the day, you're like, wow, that was some of the most unique, fun, different motorcycle riding I've ever done. And that's where these bikes, I think, really excel. And you'll charge it like once. You'll go out for an entire morning of riding, and you'll want to stop for lunch. And while we had lunch today, we would be charging the bikes. When we're done having lunch, the bikes are ready to go again. And then we'll go all out and do it all over again. And that's when you'll be like, wow, now I get it. Now I see why these things are so fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I just really enjoy what the GS. I just really,
I know.
because it handles the canyons very well, and it handles all the off-road stuff very well. And I've said this a few times on my show where I probably shouldn't, but I there's traffic, and if it's a tight squeeze, I go on the sidewalk. I've literally passed by cops and like, what? Like, hey, you're like, I'm sorry. You know, what are you gonna do? You're not gonna get me. And there's no limits, which I'm sure you get that feeling with your Pan America. There's no limits whatsoever. The Harley, the Street Glide, I don't ride as much, but when I do, I go, fuck, this is a great ride too. You know, like I had the BMW at the shop, took the Street Glide to Vegas, and the whole ride over there, I was like, why am I not riding? I don't know. We just need more bikes.
I tell you what, we have a joke about N+1, right? You can never have enough bikes. What's the ideal number of bikes? It's N+1, which means you always need one more. And the great thing about being an active rider, you know, now is that, and somebody else said this, they're like, none of them suck. You know what I mean? Like, they're all great bikes. If you read reviews on the current, you know, major bikes that are coming out right now, it's really hard to nitpick them, you know, and go, oh, well, that bike's junk. But because they're not. I mean, like virtually every bike out there right now is just outstanding. And I think that's good for us because it gives us so many options. And whether you have 2, 3, 4, whatever, you know, is in your garage, they're all going to be great bikes. And it's like what I'm finding right now is it's really hard to choose, what do I feel like riding today? You know, and that's just a pleasure and a luxury that I'm fortunate enough to have, and I feel grateful. But I mean, it's really neat where the market is right now. If you like to ride, or you think you may like to ride, now's the time to do it, because the technology there, the safety, we talked about analog brakes, we talked about traction control. I mean, what these bikes have on them now, stock, it's never been better. I look at my Lowrider S, which has none of that, and I think it's kind of archaic now to see what the difference is between that and, like, say, what the Pan America or the Livewire offers.
Yeah.
I remember when ABS came out to Harley Davidson the first time. It was like 2008, and it was funny because like all the old school riders were like, no, ABS sucks, you know, I can brake better than ABS, blah, 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 blah. And obviously over time it's like, no, you can't. I mean, even then you couldn't, but now it's like once you have it, it's 2008 was a big year. 2008 was when they brought ABS, and 2009 was like the first time in 11 or 12 years they changed the frame, because they had the same, you know, 1990s, you know, frame with the smaller tire, smaller swing arm, everything. So that's why I'm always like, what's the technology? What are they doing for safety? What are they doing for traction control, you know, tracking, family, whatever the case is. You know, communication, updates, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, you're seeing that. You're seeing that. I especially, I mean, it took me 20 years to buy a new bike almost, you know. I waited for 20 years from the moment I had the V-Rod until I found something. The closest I got to on the gas-powered bikes, I was looking at the FXDR, which was like the closest to a V-Rod that I can get to, but it wasn't quite a V-Rod. And then obviously a year after they made it, they discontinued it. I said, well, there goes that. But then that same year, they announced that the Livewire was coming out. I said, okay, we got something on it, because I had already visited the Energica guys, and I'd already seen the Zeros, and I was literally ready to pull the trigger. And then obviously Harley Davidson said, here's ours. It's available now, or it will be available in like 6-7 months. I said, okay, I'll wait. And then sure as hell, I was lucky enough to get one of the first, well, The first one in Southern California.
In Southern California,
yeah. I got the first one.
And then you got the 007 one
then
too,
they
right?
upgraded me to a lower VIN number. So how do you call that? Upgrade, downgrade?
Yeah.
So I got an earlier production unit, which is number 007 out of the production line. And then 3 months later, Sean Connery died. So I themed it 007. So I had certain parts of the bike, there's a little gun with a 007 logo kind of blended into the bike.
And let's do this real quick. Let's do introductions. Daren, what's your full name, or however you want to introduce yourself? Where are you from, and how'd you get into motorcycles?
My name is Daren Sorenson. Grew up in the Midwest near St. Louis, small town farm country kind of thing. Grew up riding dirt bikes on farms, on the back roads, gravel. And just like any kid growing up, that was the thing. We did that long before we were driving cars and stuff. And so it was just an extension of a bicycle to me and a way to get around the farm and get into town, stuff like that. So nothing real exciting there.
Buying cigarettes for your dad.
Yeah, exactly. Getting to the arcade as a teenager to throw some quarters in the old machine and stay away from the parents, But and then my first street bike was when I was in college. So I was a broke college student trying to just get by and have beer money. So instead of having a car, I had a motorcycle. So I bought a street bike and just used that as my daily driver.
What was the first bike?
It was a 1987 Honda VFR 750.
Nice.
So that was kind of my gift to myself. Little background. I grew up flying airplanes and ended up doing that in the Air Force for 20 years. So
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. But back in that time frame, of course, the first Top Gun came out. So everything is Top Gun. Every teenager who wanted to fly fighters was doing all the Top Gun stuff. So, of course, me being a young college student, the movie's super hot. Everyone's doing this. So, of course, I had the leather jacket, I had the Ray-Bans, and I had the sport bike, So I was doing my best Maverick as a 21-year-old running around college.
Did you do impersonations or anything?
No, I didn't do impersonations, but, like I said, it was a popular thing, and, it was fun. I had no idea that, that kind of my life would take such a parallel to the movie in a lot of ways.
Would you say they wrote the movie based on your life?
No,
almost.
No, but there's so many similarities. If we could do a whole show on that, but it was so part of my passion, which was just to enjoy things that. Obviously, I have this thing for speed and other things. I was telling Diego at lunch. He said, "How fast have you gone?" And I said, "Mach 1.8."
There you go. The fastest human that I've met.
And directly into the mic.
The fastest human that I've met.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
so the bike is a pretty close second. When you talk about the thrill of flying aircraft like that can perform like that. I mean, if you look at some of the highest performing motorcycles, I mean that's these are them on an electric scale. You know what I mean? So it's that has just kind of carried through. As the years have gone by. And so it's just kind of been an interesting journey to parallel things on the road, on motorcycles, as well as in the air.
Now, do you find any limitation? I mean, I'm sure you find limitations riding a motorcycle compared to flying a plane, but like if you look at it in the sense of and flying a plane is very three-dimensional because you can go anywhere, really. And riding a bike or a car, it's really two-dimensional. Like it's just left, right, straight. Does that bother you, or it's just like they're just two separate things? Or
they are two separate things in that regard, But there are a lot of similarities in terms of how you ride and the mindset that you put yourself in, and the focus that riding. Especially, if you go to the track, if you're out in twisties. I mean, there's so many things with motorcycle riding
splitting two lanes,
lane splitting in California that requires very, very high levels of focus. You're not going to sit there and daydream and look around while you're lane splitting in California on the 405, right? Same thing in the twisties, going around blind corners on the track, going fast. There's so many similarities. So when you think about kind of the human nature and the skill and the focus and the discipline, that's where you see a lot of the commonalities, and how you are constantly thinking and analyzing what your eyes are telling you, what's in front of you, and how you're maneuvering so specifically. I mean, the more you push the bikes, the more you're realizing that, oh, I need to scoot over 6 inches. When you're starting to think about that, then you're starting to think like a fighter pilot, because that you're constantly doing that. And we used to say that flying fighters was a 3-dimensional chessboard, that you could just keep stacking up and up, because there's always another dimension to what you have to be processing. So riding like that is a very similar.
I've always mentioned that, again, I just said it so many times on the podcast, but if it's super cold, if it's super hot, if I'm tired, whatever the case is, even walking towards the bike, there's always like a little bit of fear. But the moment it turns on, there's just this vroom, and it's like I'm looking at everybody's mirrors, pointing at the sky for whatever stupid reason. I should be able to see their faces. I'm seeing people eating. I'm seeing this car's tires starting to turn. Like it is almost 3-dimensional, I guess. Yeah.
And people who don't ride can't relate to that, because when you're driving a car, you're probably not looking to that level of detail. But that's so critical when you're riding a motorcycle, because those are the things that are going to save your life. So it's really amazing when we look at overlap in professions like that, because I used to say the same thing when I was walking to a jet. You could be joking around with your buddy, you could be telling stories, you could be talking about what you did at the bar last night. But when you climb up the ladder and you climb into the jet and you strap it on.
You mean the cockpit?
The cockpit.
Come on.
And you sit down, there's this moment like when you throw the leg over the bike, right? And when we would start the first engine, that's when everything clicked. And it was a transformation in focus, because all of a sudden there's no more joking. There's no more joking around about what we did in the bar last night. It's all business and it's all focus. And the job required it. You can't go fly just like you shouldn't go ride half-assed. You know what I mean? You shouldn't do it. And that's one of the kind of the unique things that I feel like kind of keeps me going and keeps me into it, because, I feel those same feelings.
Yeah, and then that's why I bring up so much the cold one, because I've been in situations where it's just late at night, it's freezing, I can't even focus, and I'm like, all right, guys, I gotta go. But again, once you turn on the bike and you start moving, you're moving and wind's blowing at you. It's even colder. I don't feel any of that. It's just, and again, I've tried to explain this to so many people, but people don't get that. People don't get that. Diego, you've been on the podcast, but please introduce yourself one more time. And again, how'd you get into bikes?
So my name is Diego Cardenas. I'm originally from Cali, Colombia. And back in the 80s when I got my first bike.
Do Colombians always have guns in their hands, or that's just a coincidence?
It just happens to be. I just want to make sure that you guys.
Don't point that at me.
Yeah, don't say shit.
It has bullets.
So back then, my first experience was with a 125cc Kawasaki, which is pretty much the motorcycle that I could afford. Cars were too expensive. And over there, motorcycles are seen as nuisances. So cars, instead of splitting out of the way, they would split into the way. So you had to be really keen and aggressive and defensive and offensive at times to be able to get. So that whole getting on the sidewalk and, waving to the cops, I mean, you needed to do it, because it's either that or the car will knock you out of the road, So I've been riding since mid 80s or so. My first real bike was early 90s, no, late 90s, early 90s, a Nighthawk 650, I think it was, a blue one. Nice bike. And then
I think they were all blue.
Yeah,
because I had a Nighthawk, like I had like an 86.
I think blue and black. I think they did blue and black.
And they had like the red letter trim or something,
Nighthawk 650, beat that to death. And then there was an opportunity to jump into Harley Davidson, which I had never thought I could ever afford. At the time, Harley's always been seen as the premium bike, and
back then was hard to get into.
So one of the guys who I worked with was upgrading. He says, "Hey, I got the Sportster 883 Deluxe, with bags on the side and the system." I'm like, "Oh, okay." But I thought it was nice, but it wasn't compared to the Nighthawk, it wasn't as fast. So I kind of held on to that for a while, and then
A Harley wasn't fast.
No,
When?
So then in 02, this Discovery Channel had this video on the V-Rod, and I saw that video, and I'm like, oh God, that's the bike I want, because it wasn't exactly a chopper, which was stuff that everybody was buying, but
Yeah, West
there were
Coast
60
choppers,
exactly.
Jesse James.
I couldn't afford a $70,000 bike, but at the same time, I didn't see myself on a sports bike either. So I tried looking for one, couldn't find one in California. I ended up bringing it from out of state. It was some guy who bought it, didn't like it, returned it with like 30 or 40 miles. And
The wife was like, "It's me or the bike."
Well, the then wife didn't say that much, but kept it for 20 years until the Livewire showed up in my life. You know, I've been following it for a while, as I told you in the past podcast. And when they finally made it, I said, I have to have it. I mean, this is just an extension to what I already enjoy, which is riding my EV car.
Yeah.
And people ask me, what's the difference between riding an EV bike and an EV car? I go, and Daren can probably attest to this, it's when you're in an EV car, like a Tesla, Plaid, whatever it is, yes, you get the G's, you get the power, you get all that performance, but you're cocooned inside a shell. On these things, it's you, the elements in your face. You feel every single piece of forces, smells, sights, sounds, lights in front of you, prime time. So the biggest thing that I tell people is like, have you ever been launched off in a roller coaster? I go, same way. The only difference is you're in control now. You're not letting the roller coaster take you around. So that's how I got into bikes. And ever since then, I've been pushing this electric bike to past what it's supposed to do. I've done 2 cross countries, hopefully 3 in this year. We do multi-100-mile runs. For us, going out on the electric bike, we normally don't go less than 280 miles on a ride.
And that's one of the reasons you actually put this together. You have an event coming up that you're doing. What's that about?
So,
well, tell them about the group first of all.
Yeah, it started in basically Southern California. And it was just kind of by chance, really, because when I made the decision, and I had been following the Livewire and other electric bikes for a couple of years, but when I actually kind of ordered mine and was expecting it fairly soon, about 2 years ago now, I started figuring out, all right, well, who else has one and who am I going to ride with? You know what I mean? So I started looking online. I started trying to figure out who else had one around. And we started picking up, people here and there online and in person and stuff. And so we just kind of got like a little Facebook group together for Southern California, and met Diego through that. And we just started kind of getting together and doing what bikers do. We ride, right? And so we would do things on the weekend,
get in fights and drink,
and go to bars and have beer, and so
take people's girlfriends away.
We started just going crazy places, right? And we figured out that the current technology, just like with the cars, doesn't really limit you like a lot of people think it does. Like a lot of people think, oh, well, you just have to charge it in your house and maybe at work or something like that, and you can't really go very far in. And I'm like, none of that's true, because we've all discovered the same things with an electric car. We've driven across the country, and we've shown that the electric cars these days can do basically anything that a gas car can do. There's really not many places you can't take one. So I said, you know what? We can do basically the same thing with the electric motorcycles now. They fast charge. They don't charge just like plugging into a wall outlet. They'll charge in 20 or 30 minutes to get you going again. It doesn't take all day. And so we said, well, where's some cool places we could ride? And so 2 years ago, one of the first places we did is we put together a little ride to go to Vegas, because one of our group members, one of our friends there, had ridden an older bike. It was a Zero, but it could not fast charge. So every time he stopped, it was like a 2-hour stop. But he did this several years ago, and it took him 7 or 8 hours, I can't remember, to get to Vegas. So he said, well, now we have a baseline. Let's see how long it will take a new bike, a current day bike with this faster charging. And so we put a group together, and we had like 5 or 6 guys on these bikes, and we rode to Vegas, and we show up in Vegas on electric motorcycles, and it only took us 4 or 5 hours.
4 or 5 hours, most of us.
So with like two stops,
with a stop.
with two stops.
What, Baker and
we stopped
Barstow?
in Barstow, basically Barstow and Baker, and then you can make it to Vegas. And so our friend who had spent like all day or day and a half or whatever going to Vegas, he's like, wow, that was like 6 hours faster than what he did. So it was a good benchmark to go, look, that's only like probably an hour longer than
typical car.
Other cars or other electric cars or something like that going the same distance. So we had fun. We got an Airbnb. We rented out. We spent the whole weekend in Vegas and rode back. And then guys were like, all right, where else can we go? So last year we said, okay, well, let's double it. Instead of going to Vegas, let's go to Reno. So we had a
ballsy,
and we do kind of like a race where it's, there's prizes and stuff like that. So we have fun, but we're testing to see not only can we get there, but how long would it take us to get there? And so, we had a group of guys that raced to Reno. We started in Disneyland. It was about 500 miles and you can pick your own way to go.
So you guys just started at the same point.
We started at the same point, but you could have gone up to 5. You could have gone up to 99. You could have gone up to 395.
Could have gone to the airport, put your bike inside.
You could
the
have,
plane.
yeah. But everyone rolled into Reno that night, and we were like,
and how are you guys doing? You're monitoring mileage or?
Yeah, well, previously it's been all time based. So we all start at the same time, and then we're sitting there at like the Reno sign or the Vegas sign with a stopwatch, and we're seeing how where guys are. And we can track guys live via iPhones and GPS and stuff like that, and text messages and stuff. So we would clock guys as they come in, and fun. So it's a fun little event, and then we spend all weekend in Reno drinking and gambling and having fun, and we ride around Lake Tahoe, and then we come back. So there's such an interest. Like every year, people are like, "Where are we going now?"
You ride first,
yes.
Then you go gambling and
we park the bikes.
Fighting. Yeah,
we park the bikes.
Put the helmets away.
And then we're just tourists at that point.
That's right.
So everyone said, "Okay, well, gee, man, we got to top that. What are we going to do this year?" So. This year we're doing we're calling it the Bridge the Bays. So we're starting in San Francisco because there's a pretty equal amount of riders up there that have electric motorcycles. So we're going to actually
it's big up there.
Start up there because last year they kind of came down to us. We had several riders that came down from San Francisco to ride with us to Reno. So we said, hey, look, we'll come to your backyard. We'll start in San Francisco. We're going to start on the Golden Gate Bridge, and then we're going to ride down to San Diego. So the finish line in San Diego is going to be the bridge that goes over to Coronado, and then we're going to finish on the island and then stay on the island for the weekend. And so that's coming up in May. We've got even more riders this year than we did last. We've got a lot of interest with the bike manufacturers and other sponsors and folks that want to support this. We're going to have a great time. We're going to ride basically another 500 miles between bridges, and really it's multi-purpose. It's bringing these two groups together. We've got a lot of friendships, people that we've met that are up in the Bay Area, so we get to ride with them. We get to bring them down to our neighborhood and show them around San Diego, some places they've never ridden before. So that's going to be fun. And then we're going to get to showcase the bikes as well. We're most likely going to have yet another manufacturer participate. So there's a company called Lightning Motors that's up in the Bay Area, and they're going to provide a bike, and the actual CEO of the company says he's going to ride with us down.
That's awesome.
So we've got huge support from them and the other manufacturers.
Livewire stepping up now.
Livewire is going to host our award ceremony and
following day.
Yeah. In Coronado?
Yeah, in San Diego, yeah. Right. So Livewire has been very interested, and Energica is going to support us, and hopefully Zero will as well.
And these are the same companies of 3 years ago. We knocked at doors, hey, we're planning on doing this. Have fun.
Well, they thought we were crazy, but
right.
But
you guys are.
What we've shown them though is that you can do things like this, and it's not crazy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like we're not.
Well, if you're consistent, if you succeed,
and here's the difference.
We're not going 150 miles an hour.
And
we're not wheeling down the freeway. You know what I mean? It's a very
supportable event. Just to kind of give you an idea, most people, because we used to call it a cannonball run, and cannonball kind of.
Yeah,
how would you would think, oh, cannonball, these guys are going to be doing 150 miles per hour down that freeway as fast as they can. Well, true and false. True, yes, you're going to max out the speed of what you feel comfortable that the bike's going to let you do. to get to the next charging station. Then it's up to you how to leverage how long you're going to stay at that charging station. So basically, at the end of the day, it's not who rides the fastest or who can throttle the fastest. It's who can have the least amount of time not moving that bike.
Yeah, well, and then just for a lot of the listeners, because I have a lot of people that don't ride motorcycles, but the cannonball runs are usually activities that people take upon themselves, and they have to ride a certain amount of mileage. So, for example, 1,000 miles, and whoever can get the best time.
Well, no, those are iron butts.
Oh, those are the iron butts.
Yeah.
Right.
Cannonball officially is a race that started back in the 70s. People boycotting the whole pricing of the gasoline back in the 70s. That they started in these cross-country runs, which were highly legal. Obviously, it's as fast as you can. There's
as fast as you can.
And the records are stupid records right now. I think the last record on a car was like, what, a day and a half or 2 days, something like that. You look at it.
For how many miles?
Almost 3,000, 2,800 something.
Daren can beat that.
Well, I took a crack at it.
1.8.
I took a crack at it last year, and I did the 2,875 miles in 7 days.
Yeah.
So it is hell raising, but our runs are more like rallies now, and that's what we call it. It's a rally because at the end of the day, it's a ride to get down to San Diego. Yes, as fast as possible, but obviously you can't really throttle the bike.
Right, because you got to have strategy. Because on an electric bike,
that's the challenge.
If you go too fast, you're gonna burn out your battery.
Oh, no,
not burn out your battery.
You're not gonna make it.
You're gonna drain it.
Yeah, and you're not gonna make it to that charging
and
station.
You got to stop sooner.
Or you're gonna get to.
So this is like the turtle and the rabbit race kind of ordeal, where you just have to be consistent.
Yeah. So the strategy does play a huge part of it, and that's what makes it interesting, because it's not just who has the fastest bike. And so that's one of the things that we're specifically going to do this year is try to level the playing field, because we do want to make it as inclusive as we can. So even if you don't have, the most expensive bike with the biggest battery and the biggest motor that can go the fastest, you still can participate. You can still make it to San Diego, and you still have a chance of winning, in the prizes and stuff like that we're going to have. So we are going to alter it a little bit so that, it just doesn't matter what bike you're on, but what strategy you employ. And if you play the game right to get the most points and stuff like that. So because we've done this now, we've done 2 trips to Vegas where, we're going against just strictly time, and we pretty much know how that's going to work out. We went to Reno. We pretty much know how that's going to work out. So we don't want people to just be like, oh, I don't want to go hang out with you guys. I don't want to go on this ride because I know how it's going to turn out.
Yeah.
Right. So you got to keep mixing it up a little bit. You got to keep it interesting. And so we're doing this to get the most amount of participation, because, the who gets there fastest is kind of trivial at this point. What we really want to do is show people what's possible on the biggest variety of bikes. Because if I can show you that it doesn't matter what brand you're on, if you're on a Zero or an Energica or a Livewire or a Lightning or any other brand, I can show you that you can ride from San Francisco to San Diego. You can cruise down the PCH. You can go through Big Sur, some of the most beautiful country and the scenery and stuff in the country. And you can do it on these current stock production motorcycles that you can walk into a dealer and buy today. And that's what most people don't understand.
That and the other thing that I was telling the gentleman at the Livewire, that they're so easy to ride. I mean, you don't have a clutch, you don't have gears to shuffle through.
If you can ride a bicycle, you can ride an electric motorcycle. It's so easy. The end. Period. We're done.
There's no question about it. Do you think they're gonna ease up on the license requirement for, like, kind of like a scooter? Because you don't need it for a scooter, and it pretty much does the same as a scooter, except it's a little faster. Or a lot faster, but
I don't know where you draw the line, because even though they're easy to ride, they can be extremely high performance. So even, the most entry-level electric motorcycle can probably do 100 miles an hour or close to it.
The Saunders is going to be 85.
So what you don't want is there's a certain person who's wrecked his e-bike twice now, who's been in the news a lot. And, you can hurt yourself even on kind of the small e-bikes if you don't appreciate what's underneath you in terms of horsepower and specifically torque.
Right.
So I do think there needs to be something that people have to go through, whether it's a licensing or training or something like that. And it's not that they're hard to ride. It's just an appreciation of the power, so that you don't hurt yourself. So it's more of a safety course.
I've ridden a couple of times with the local LA group. They have all these e-bikes, like the Sondors, these lower, like the Onyxes, the Super
What do you
73s.
mean lower?
Well, it's not bikes.
What do you mean?
Electric motorcycles that don't require a license to ride.
Right.
Because they're considered, as long as they have pedals, they're considered bicycles.
Right.
So
like
it's
Super
a bicycle.
73.
Exactly. It's a bicycle that does 80 miles per hour. So,
But a Suron can do 80 miles an hour and it has pedals.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So these guys
Dun, dun,
are
dun.
are literally on the streets, on the sidewalk, on the street, on the sidewalks. Cops can't do anything because they have pedals. They get to dirt roads, like any other bicycle. They're pedaling it and they don't get. I can't do that.
Are you saying we should put pedals on live wires?
No, I'm saying we should put. I'm not saying. What I'm saying is
are
that
you saying we should make
not do that
a
to my
pedal kit
and so you don't
that
get,
they could buy on your website
yes
for $49.99,
and then they don't have to.
and
get a
we'll
license.
install it for $20, and they can ride on sidewalks? Jesus Christ!
No, what I'm saying, what I'm trying to get here is there has to be that difference. There's some of these bikes, like I said, 100 miles per hour in less than 7 seconds. So there's got to be some sort of training for you to understand what is right and what's wrong. Because when I seen these guys on these bikes, they don't care about pedestrians, they don't care about lights, they don't care about stop signs. They'll just and I'm having to stop. I'm watching these guys just whoosh by me. I'm like at 30, 40 miles per hour because they have pedals.
Right. And they're not wearing proper helmets, and they're not wearing
There you
proper
go.
gear.
And I had to kind of.
They're wearing Vans. They're dressing up like
So yes, to answer your question, this should be. Regulation.
I think there's going to be a lot of changes, especially like the whole thing that Elon Musk is facing right now. He's releasing the Cybertruck. The first design was no rear view mirrors, and it's like, well, the laws of the United States is you have to have rear view mirrors, and now he has to put rear view mirrors. But it's like these cameras have proven that they're better than rear view mirrors, anyways. Plus the sensors, plus whatever, infrared, no infrared, scan, whatever, no scan. It's so much better. I've given my opinion on this show many times about how I think it's time for us to have smart cars that drive by themselves, because I trust them a whole lot more than humans, especially when you split lanes through thousands and thousands and thousands of cars, and you see people fighting on the phone and texting and eating, and they're just so distracted. But what do you guys feel about self-driving cars? Do you think it's good for motorcyclists, or do you think it's still scary, or not yet?
I'm actually a big fan. So I've had a Tesla for 6 years,
Cool.
and it's one of the greatest things that sold me on the car outside of its pure performance. So the ability for that thing to, whether you call it autopilot or not, for basically it to drive and monitor itself going down the freeway, I think more times than not is going to prevent accidents. And sometimes, like you said, the real equation that a lot of people don't think about is taking into account how distracted people are today. And if we could really monitor that real time, it would scare the living shit out of you, especially as a motorcycle rider. So I do think there's some benefit to it. I do think that there's a lot of purpose. I do think it will lower accidents, and in all aspects, I think it's going to make it safer for other drivers and other motorcycle riders out there.
I agree. What do you think?
I'm into it too, but the issue is we have something called the human factor where not everybody believes in it, not everybody. So you cannot mix both worlds and expect a perfect result, which is what we're seeing now. I had my car on autopilot, and still you had an idiot who came over and sideswiped you.
But the question is, would you trust a self-driving car? Would you trust a freeway full of self-driving cars while you're on a motorcycle, or humans?
Oh yeah, all day long. If the freeway was full of self-driving cars, if you had humans inside that mix, no.
Yeah.
There's just no way I can do that. I mean, I'm a technologist
It's just
by trade.
so much. It's just so much. The way the cars communicate, like if you wanted to switch lanes, the cars, hey, this car's coming through, they open up.
And now cars are talking to each other. I mean, next generation vehicles are all going to be doing, this whole cloud connectivity where they know that this guy is a Ford and he's talking to the Ford that's a few miles ahead, and the Ford is notifying the real-time traffic crew. It's stuff that's going to be people are going like, oh my God.
Well, the cyber, not the cyber truck, but the semi, was advertised to have a convoy mode, which means the trucks are talking to themselves. So that's kind of like the next generation of technology.
They're talking to themselves?
Well, there'll be a convoy of say 10 semis, Tesla semis. and they will all be in a row, and they will all be talking to each other. So their autopilots are all talking to each other.
They're on sync.
So that they can travel in closer distances for better efficiency.
Yeah.
Right? And
That makes
reduce
sense.
drag. So it's going to be like a train on the freeway.
Wow.
So there's huge benefits to that when you think about when we say a smart vehicle, right? That's a vehicle that's talking to another vehicle out there. So there's a lot of benefits if my bike is communicating my position to other connected vehicles on the freeway, and they know I'm lane splitting. At some point, they might automatically scoot over, making a bike lane for me in the middle. I mean, that's possible and really not that hard. We have aircraft that are basically doing similar things in the air right now. So we have unmanned aircraft that are acting as air refuelers. And one of the things that we have done with prototypes is we have an unmanned drone full of gasoline that is going to has passed gas to another unmanned drone in the air by themselves because they're communicating and they're position keeping off of themselves. So the technology is phenomenal on what we could do, in terms of vehicle safety on the freeway.
It just goes back to the current laws and regulations and limitations and all that other bullshit that we have to deal with. It could take years. I mean, it could change quick, but it could take years. I'm going to throw a random curveball at you. My brother, he was in the Navy. He was in Coronado. He was then based on the USS Abraham Lincoln, what do you call it? Aircraft carrier. I've heard that the airplanes or the jets in the Navy are kind of more advanced than the Air Force planes because they have to land on a aircraft carrier. In that sense. We're not talking about the weapons and the B-2s but how far is that statement from being true?
Well, it is true that those aircraft are different, and they make them specifically, like you said, they have to be beefed up to land on an aircraft carrier. So the suspension
and to take off from
a little bit, yeah, but it's more in the landing because that's where the greatest forces are. So, for example, they don't flare when they come in to land on an aircraft carrier. They literally pick a spot on the deck where they have to land so that the hook catches the wire at the right spot. So there's no finesse to that. They have to literally drive in until they hit this spot, or the whole system doesn't work. So that puts an extreme amount of stress and G on that landing gear. So if you actually look at
the pilot,
yeah, there's a little bit, but the gear absorbs most of it. But if you look at the suspension and the tires and everything else on a Navy aircraft, it's like looking at an off-road or outback airplane. It's like they're thick, they're massive, they're bigger, and all of that is to take the stress. And then if you look at an F-16 for the Air Force, which has to do none of that, it almost looks like tricycle, toy gear, because the wheels are smaller, the struts are smaller. It doesn't
little spokes,
because
but it's not necessary.
Because when an F-16 comes into land, he's going to flare and he's going to just float this thing in, and the wheels are barely going to touch, and there's no stress.
He's going to jump out of the plane, fly.
And then he fixes his hair and he puts his scarf up.
Puts his Ray-Bans, his leather jackets.
Jumps on
Then he jumps on his motorcycle to the beautiful girl saying, "Here you go home."
Yes.
Okay. So I know it's random as fuck.
And the danger
So
zone.
they are different. And then the other thing is sometimes the wings will be different because the wings will fold up so that they fit on the carrier deck and below better. So there's a lot of differences in those kind of aircraft. If we're talking about the Marines, a lot of the Marines will have a vertical landing capability, which makes them way different. So for the example, the Harrier or the new F-35B, which can literally land vertically on an aircraft carrier and stop, that motor actually rotates 90 degrees and then basically is blowing straight down. And then it's got computer systems that make this thing hover almost hands-free. You're literally flying this thing and you're just telling it, hey, move a little bit over to the right or move a little bit over to the left. And the autopilot is doing everything else for you. So in that regard, that is a lot of additional technology that the Air Force jets don't have.
What's happening, because I've been asking for this for so many years. You see those two airplanes, the ones that you're talking about, flying through downtown every single day. And I've even been at Universal Studios, and I'll see it fly over Burbank, and then it goes all the way down towards the 5, and it flies over the mountain every day, like between 1 and 2 o'clock.
I have no idea.
I have no
Top
idea.
secret.
Oh,
I have
Top
no idea.
secret.
every day. It's like
Is it slow or what?
it's low, and they're low too. But it's that one airplane that has the the
The
propellers.
V-22 Osprey. Yeah.
and it's flying just like that. It's always two of them,
Yeah.
or the big helicopters, and there's always two of them, and they just fly over the valley, and you can see them go all the way up to 5, and then they go past the hill every day. And I'm like, where the fuck are they coming? Where did they start from, and where are they going?
I don't know. They're most likely Marines. They may be coming from Camp Pendleton down near San Diego. I'm not sure, but that's what it sounds like.
Yeah. It just always catches my... And sometimes they'll fly over Hollywood. And, like, they'll just do... Anyways, back to electric vehicles and technology. What truck are you deciding on? Because
That's a great question.
He wants Ford.
Man, I don't know yet because I don't feel like any of the specs are really final yet. The Rivian is
bulletproof.
basically sort of being delivered now. I just saw one this morning. They've got a lot of neat things that they're doing with the Rivian. I have a reservation for the Cybertruck, and I've been waiting for that thing forever. But I still don't feel like I know what the final specs are on it. You know what I mean? I know what they told us several years ago, but I don't think that's going to be final. But yeah, it's all going to come down to what actually rolls off and is available once it gets to the showroom floor. I really like some of the things that the Ford is doing. So to me, it's all about functionality. It's not going to be about does it have a ludicrous mode and does it go 0 to 60 or something like that. I really like the technology that makes it capable of interconnecting with your home or with another vehicle. So the fact that, and Ford is kind of, I think, talking a lot about this, is being able to take your truck home, park it in your garage, and then plug it into your house. And then with a simple cable, now all of a sudden your house is being powered by the battery in your truck. Or if Diego pulls up to my house or to my truck and says, hey, I'm low on charge, I need to charge up my bike, we just put a cable between my truck and his bike, and my truck charges his bike up no matter where we are.
DC fast charge.
Yeah, but would it be a separate battery or it'd be the original battery?
No, it's the original battery.
battery.
But doesn't it waste it?
No, not really when you think about it, because it enables so many other possibilities, right? So like maybe we have a couple of dirt electric bikes and we go out to the desert like Borrego Springs or something like that, right?
That'd be cool.
You want to have a supply of battery that you can use to recharge your bike, because say you go out for 2 hours and ride your dirt bike, right, out in Borrego Springs, and then you come back and want to have lunch. Well, there's no fast chargers out there, right? So wouldn't it be great if you could just plug your bikes into your truck, charge them up while you have lunch, boom, then you're back out riding in the dirt again, and you don't have to drive into town or find a charger anywhere out in Borrego Springs. So there's a lot of capabilities with that kind of concept. And some of the newer vehicles are taking more of an interest in doing that. So it's not just can you plug it into your home, because most people have power at their house already, so it's not that big of a deal. But what it does is it makes it mobile, you know what I mean? And now you're taking it with you, because when you look at it, like for example, my battery is 21.5 kilowatt hours, right? The LiveWire is what, Diego? 14, right? Your truck is going to be like 120, 150, who knows? It could be 200.
Billion.
It could be 200.
Yep.
Well, holy cow. If I don't need to drive 500 miles to go out with my dirt bikes, I'm going to have a lot of extra battery when I get out there, and it'd be nice to be able to do something with it.
No, in that sense, it'd be amazing. What would also be cool is, when homes have solar panels, once it's full, those batteries to take the charge from the solar panels, they cost $10,000-$15,000.
Right, yeah.
Do you think there's a way to grab that and store it into the car or charge the car that way?
If
I guess
yes,
automatically it does do that.
It does, but if it's now bi-directional, right? Now I get to use it however I want to use it, right? So whether I'm charging my electric motorcycle or my electric car in my garage from solar, I only get to use it if I'm driving my vehicle. But what if I could transform that into using it however I wanted to use electricity, wherever I wanted to use electricity, and not just make it a one-way door into my vehicle? I think that's going to be transformative in how we use a lot of this technology.
And that's the difference that the new manufacturers are taking, unlike Tesla, because Tesla always, as a matter of fact, they they specifically stated on their warranty documentation, you cannot use your Tesla as a to power any other type of device. You know, the battery pack will automatically void your warranty. So people, by even plugging in an inverter to your 12 volt, they can say, nope, you voided your warranty. And I understand that. I see it. I mean, Tesla has a solar business and they have a Powerwall business. So that would be technically competing against their other interests. So they decided on, you know, not doing it. And then everybody else is, yeah, we're going to do it. You know, it's just better for us. You know, it gives more functionality. Like I said, more things that I can do with the energy that I'm hauling around, you know. So that to me is really interesting. And that last video you put up a couple of weeks ago or a couple of days ago where you had one car charging the other, you know, V2V, that's pretty amazing. I mean, there's no reason for somebody to get stranded now.
Who doesn't want V2V?
I don't know what that means. Just for the record.
Vehicle to vehicle, man. Vehicle to vehicle. What are you thinking about?
I don't know where this conversation's going.
Where were you going? Where are you going?
I'm happy we haven't had any drinks. Apple, I heard a rumor years ago that they hired a team. They're closing them off in a building. They're building a car. Nobody can leave, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, still haven't heard anything back. And now I heard, rumor has it, that Apple and Lucid are teaming up. What, do you guys know anything about this?
No, I heard that. No. That's about
he
it.
He looks like he knows something, but he can't talk about it.
No, I don't know anything. It wouldn't surprise me. It would be great. I think Apple has had the resources and the ability to do something for a long time, and it's kind of a shame that maybe they haven't. You know, so I feel like they're a little bit late to the fight, but you know, it's never too late, and I think you're going to see a lot of these big companies throw a lot of money at this, and you know, everyone's just going to benefit in the end because you know there's just going to be some really cool shit coming out soon.
Yeah.
I mean, the Lucid looks like an amazing car.
It looks beautiful. Looks clean, sharp.
I got my reservation for mine. I mean, we'll see. You know, once it comes out, I'm still 2 years away, even though I have a reservation.
Yeah.
It's a great car, great concept. It's luxury. It's, you know, unbridled performance. I mean, it doesn't beat a Plaid, but it wasn't designed to beat a Plaid. It was more to be a luxury mobile. And you get all the bells with that. Everybody who I know has driven it say that the driving experience on that is insane. It's so perfect. So we'll see how it comes out. But I mean,
there's one thing. I love Tesla. Just the only thing with Tesla now that this Hertz deal's going through, I feel like I don't want to drive a fucking Hertz car. You know what I mean? Like I really think it kind of cheapened them out. You know, now like police officers are gonna have it, Hertz is gonna have it, it's the rental Uber's gonna have it. It's gonna be an Uber car. I don't want to drive an Uber car. They're not cheap. You know, because right now I have a 2016 Tesla Model S. And we made an order, and we're going to be able to get it, I think, now in 2 months, 3 months. And it's like 100 and X amount. It's a lot of money, and it's going to be a rental car or an Uber car. You know, that's where I'm looking at the Lucid. That's where I'm looking at the Audi e-tron GT. That thing looks beast. The Porsche, nice outside, but the inside, there's no luxury. It's kind of like, You know, the Mercedes is doing the S-Class. At $100,000, like you have other options. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that deal kind of like not cheapened them out? Obviously, it's good for their stocks and the stockholders, but
I do think it's changed the company a little bit. You know, it was definitely a different experience in 2016. If you had a Tesla driving around, you rarely ever saw another car. When you did, you were like ecstatic and you were waving at them, and we all kind of knew each other in our area by on like a first name basis.
Right? No, I mean, charging, going to superchargers was a social gathering. Everybody get out of the car. You'd talk about the car. You'd show them this. Now it's like everybody's in the car. Nobody even looks at each other.
The dealer and the service center knew you on a first name basis. You know what I mean? So it was a very small community. So, you know, it's great that they've had success. And please go buy a Tesla because my stock price appreciates it. But it's different. You know what I mean? It's different. How many Teslas did we pass today when we were lane splitting? Probably like 50 or more, you know, just on the way over here. And so, yeah, it's a different experience, and it all just kind of depends on what you are looking for. You know what I mean? So, I would say on the counter to that, while there's a lot of new startups, I do think there's something to be said about the maturity of a technology, especially a battery technology. And what I'm waiting to see is, can a brand new company in 2022 deliver to a customer the same EV experience, with range and reliability and just functionality, kind of the way Tesla has done. I'm not sure that anyone else is on par right now when you look at it. When you say, you take your Tesla and you go to a supercharger, you don't think about it. You don't have to worry about whether the charger's going to start. You don't have to worry about if it handshakes correctly. You don't have to worry about logging into something or whether or not your credit card's on file or what your balance is.
You downloaded the app,
or you've downloaded the right app, or if the whole system is going to work, right? And if you're lucky, it's a seamless experience, and it charges your car up and off you go. But that's not guaranteed. I have zero concern when I pull up in a Tesla to a Tesla supercharger, and just owning the car now for 6 years, I think that's where they still kind of lead the industry, is in the overall experience, and just the way that everything works together seamlessly. I think that, in my mind, is what I'm waiting to see some of these other companies achieve before I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to go and because like you said, $100,000 is not cheap, right? A lot of these high-end cars are definitely not cheap. So I want to make sure that they're offering the same level of experience and customer satisfaction.
Yeah, it just seems so much money. I mean, like I said, everything's going to be in that high 100,000. I mean, in those categories, there's really nice cars. I think a Lucid's what, 80 or even cheaper?
It depends. A Lucid can go way over 100.
$279,000, the top of the line, 1,100.
Speak closer to the mic. Remember,
the Lucid, the top of the line one, it's 179.
179.
So I mean, but you're getting a car that's doing 520 miles on
Yeah.
a single charge. So they are exceeding certain specs on the Tesla. When it comes to the performance, obviously, what people see is that whole 0 to 60. How fast can I get there? They're lagging a little bit behind that, but I don't think that's their motivating factor. The motivating factor is getting range and getting luxury out there to that market segment who wants luxury. The guy who's driving the Mercedes S550, that's the guy they're targeting now.
Right.
The guy from the S550 might not like a Tesla because it doesn't have the same fit and finish.
Yeah, I'm still pissed I have nowhere to hang a coat. There's no coat hanger.
I've been waiting 6 years for a coat hanger.
What the fuck? How do you not have a coat hanger, please?
My wife bitches about not having a
no shit bar?
No,
no shit grip?
Yeah, exactly. So when I accelerate, she's like, "Oh my God, please, why don't you have something here?" I'm just about ready to bolt something on there for her, so she doesn't bitch about it anymore. Because it's details like that make some of these higher end vehicles where they're at. Now, another thing to that story is if you come out with a vehicle and you're trying to compete against Tesla, you better meet or exceed their bottom of the totem pole. So if you're coming out with the new Volvo and the Volvo max range is 250 miles and you're charging the same price that a Tesla's charging for a Model 3 or Model Y, then you're in the wrong bucket, buddy.
Right.
You're supposed to be at least at Tesla charging range, and then maybe you can beat them by price point.
How affordable? And again, I really don't know what your guys' background is. I don't even know why I'm asking this question. It's just you guys seem so knowledgeable on the EV vehicles. But it must be a lot cheaper than building a fucking car because there's so many new companies coming out left and right, that are like another one I was thinking about that I was watching the other day is, what is it, Vanderhall? You haven't seen the Vanderhall?
No.
Yeah, they've been around for 5 years. They create little small cars with two wheels.
Oh, they look like little roadsters.
Yeah, they look like roadsters. Okay, but now they just released a 4x4, like smaller car enclosed, but it's a 4x4. The thing climbs mud, like it's like a fun adventure, vehicle. It looks amazing, and I'm just thinking, how easy is it to build an electric car? Because everybody's doing it.
Yeah, I don't think the basics are that expensive. For example, if you go online and you look at some of the offerings that are available in China, so if you go outside of the U.S. market, what you see is that these things are out there for way, way less. but they're just the bare bones mechanics, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
of the system. Like, for example, you can get a little electric motorcycle pit bike or something like that for $500-600. You try to buy that in the U.S. and it may be the same bike, and they may be trying to get $5,000 for it. You know what I mean? So there's something that's going on that's trying to take advantage of this time that we're in right now, where they're getting a premium for a lot of these vehicles. But that's not the case, you know, in other parts of the world. You know, when you look at like India or China or other places where there's thousands and thousands and thousands of bikes compared to cars, because
Millions and millions.
because that's their primary mode, right?
Right.
So I think a lot of that is a little bit specific to the kind of the Western culture and stuff like that, the United States and Europe and what they want right now.
Amount of people that are companies that are doing it. Fun fact about India: they say there's more Indians on computers than there are American citizens.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be
Think
surprised.
about it. And then there was another statistic about they have more gold than blah 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 blah. Like the gold that they wear. Like if you grab all that gold,
That everybody's wearing.
it's just so much more. Yeah, I was in China. I was in Guangzhou. In Guangzhou, we went to the BYD factory. And are you guys familiar with BYD? No. It's called Build Your Dream. They were doing electric cars in 2016.
Oh yeah, they're the biggest. They're not one of the
They're
biggest automatic. Yeah,
humongous.
in China. Yeah,
And they're doing. And back in 2016, they were doing garbage trucks. They were doing taxis. They were building all kinds of stuff, and they have new battery cells and solar. Huge, humongous company. So I wouldn't. Now that you said that, I wouldn't be surprised if like these companies are teaming up with these, you know, manufacturers and.
With that, taking it back to motorcycles, as you guys know, Livewire is its own independent motorcycle company. So it's, even though it's owned by Harley Davidson, it operates, it breathes, it does everything.
It's a spinoff, right?
Yeah, it's a spinoff. And just a few months ago, they announced that they're going to go public with it through a SPAC deal, basically similar to what Lucid did, where they kind of teamed up with another company and then became a publicly traded company. Harley Davidson is going to retain 70% of this new publicly traded company. The 30% that is left is going to be owned by partners, and one of those partners is a company called Kimco. Kimco is a very, very large manufacturer of motorcycles in Asia,
Brazil
and in China, and Brazil and China. Oh. So now it goes back to that whole mass market appeal. You know, can we make bikes to anybody and everybody who needs an electric bike? Whatever it is, whether it's a high-end Livewire or a lower-end Del Mar, which is what they call the next generation bike that's coming out. So it goes back to prove that some of these offerings that outside the U.S. borders are sometimes step ahead and a lot cheaper than we could get now. What the build quality is on those fronts, I don't know, because we don't see those products here.
Right.
All you can see is the review on YouTube where the guy buys an Alibaba, this sports bike, and all of a sudden it has a hub motor and it doesn't go more than 80 miles per hour.
Yeah.
Because this is a great Sondors bike, but it's...
There we go with the Sondors again, huh?
It's a crappy electric full-blown motorcycle.
Right.
So to my point is that the U.S. is not the EV market of the world, I guess, per capita. I guess India, China, and all these other countries are. The question is, what are these companies doing? And I think Livewire is kind of putting their sights already on there because they have, I guess, the vision, the powers, the intuition saying, if we jump into these markets before anybody else does, and if we have a partner that kind of helps us get into it, then we'll be light years ahead of the other companies that are now trying to kind of seed the United States, like the Energicas and the Zeros and whoever else is going to come down. So I think it's a good move if you start looking at Asia. But the question is, at the end of the day is, you know,
it's a great move. My question was more towards, like, there's been 40 car companies for the last 50 years. That was it. Like, if you wanted to start a car company, it was impossible. It was impossible. Now you see electrical vehicles. Okay, here I guess I got a better question. There's so many new electrical car companies now. Do you think it's because it's very easy to make, or do you think it's because it's easy to get funding to start building this? Like, you can get, because of social media, you get funding, or is it all of the above?
I can't give you an exact answer right now, but a few years ago, I was doing a cross country on my Tesla. I was going to New York City, and I stopped at a small town called, I'm trying to remember, But they had, out of all places, the only place where they had a destination charger for Teslas, because I was happened to be staying at a family member's house a few miles down. And the only charging station, which was not a supercharger, was a destination charger. You know what? I'll just go plug in over there, leave it parked at this museum's parking lot. Following that, go pick up my car. Little did I know that the museum, Boyerstown, Pennsylvania, as a matter of fact, Boyerstown, Pennsylvania, was dedicated to electric vehicles and history of the electric vehicle. It's called Boyerstown Historical Museum of Electric Vehicles. So the following day, I went over there, and it was rare for them to see a Tesla parked outside charging, especially overnight. I'm like, so I come in, I go, is the museum open? Yeah, come on in. And I got the curator to come down, meet me, shook my hand. Oh my God, we're so glad to see you here. I'm like, it's just a Tesla. For me, it's like whatever. But to them, it was rare. And took me through the whole museum. At one given time in the early 1900s, there was more than 3,000 electric car manufacturers in the United States back in the early 1900s. That they all dwindled away. They made different types of cars, whether they were converting horse and buggies to small utilities. I got pictures on my site where I can show you semi-looking trucks back from the early 1900s. Charging infrastructure. The problem is that all that stuff kind of did away because of the gasoline engine. But the question is, you were asking is it just that much easier to build an electric car? Or is it harder? And to me, it's easier. I always said that an electric vehicle is a computer with wheels. Technically, it's a laptop, it has a screen, it has a processor, has storage, and has a battery. All you did is you slap the electric motor and some wheels on it, and there you go, and you regulate all that through a controller, which is the computer. So to me, yeah, that's why you're seeing now companies coming out of the woodwork. I mean, just
from everywhere.
Yeah, you went to the last auto show here in LA, right?
Yeah.
There was a new company doing this.
There's
big
like
splash.
10 new companies.
Yeah, called VinFast. I'm like, VinFast? Never heard of this place. Yep, we'll take your name and number. They've been calling me every day now for a demo ride. I'm like, where did you guys come from? A demo ride? How long has it? Well, it's like the biggest automotive manufacturer of Vietnam. They're trying to do inroads into the U.S. and show their vehicles. And their vehicles aren't that bad looking. I mean, they look nice. They have decent specs. The price point is decent. So my question is not more of a, how many are there? Is why are these guys jumping up so quickly? And we have like the Rivians that takes them like 10 years to build a truck, or the Lucids takes them another 10 years to come out with their luxury vehicle. And then you see these Vietnamese companies, here's our car, you can test drive it now.
Well, it's back to the whole thing where the computer's taken so long to develop, and now like countries like China or India, they just copy it. You know, they don't have to make a computer. They don't have to make a software. They just like, oh, that's what they did. We can duplicate this so much easier. Blah, 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 blah. Everybody gets a computer. Here's a software. So it might be one of those things. What do you think, Daren?
Yeah, I'm not convinced that all electric vehicles are the same just because it has a battery and a motor. You know what I mean?
No.
So I do believe there's still probably a significant difference in technology, reliability. Some car companies have had their cars recalled due to fires and haven't resumed production. So some are having some interesting issues that others may have already worked through. But I do think we're at a time where they see the opportunity and they see, maybe this is one of these generational shifts, you know what I mean? Where if you get to a certain point, you've reached a tipping point for acceptance, and now all of a sudden this market, whether it's the United States or Western Europe or wherever, they see the demand that's out there because of this change that seems to be working well for at least some of the companies like Tesla. So if you look at Tesla's stock price over the last like 6 or 7 years, its growth is in the thousands. So, I mean, that profit, drives a lot of, corporate greed, if you will, because everyone wants a piece of that. And if you say the electrical vehicle market in the next 10 years is, trillions of dollars, well, then everyone's going to want a piece of that. So I just think it's an interesting time, and hopefully, like these companies that we see at the LA Auto Show and stuff like that, or motorcycles, regardless of what they are, I just hope that the user has the same experience, because the bar, I think, right now is set pretty high. If, like Diego was saying, if the Rivian's not as good as a Tesla, if the Lucid is not as good as a Tesla in overall experience, they're not going to last long. They're not going to sell a lot of vehicles. You know what I mean? So I feel like that bar is pretty high. So you can't just like throw together a battery and a motor and slap a computer on it. Yeah, it may work, but I'm not sure what your experience is going to be. Is
Tesla that much better or convenient? And the only reason I'm asking that is because first thing that comes to my head is Fisker Karma. You know, Fisker Karma is a good-looking car, sexy. It was convenient. It was right there in the beginning, but obviously,
yeah, I think it works. You know what I mean? Like, I think the overall experience is
the simplicity
that it's so simple that it just works. You know what I mean?
Like iPhone.
Like your iPhone, exactly. You know what I mean?
2-year-old.
Like I've never been stranded with my car or my motorcycle. I've always been able to get where I'm going. You know what I mean? It's by far the most reliable car I've ever owned in terms of maintenance and reliability and just working. So I do think it's interesting when you look at branding and you hear other people start to use that aren't even in the auto industry, and they use Tesla as the standard, right?
Yeah.
They say, we're the Tesla of microwaves. We're the Tesla of TVs. Wow. How did that happen? If you're in marketing, your mind just blew up because you're like, how did Tesla get to be such a gold standard that I don't know what they are, but let's just say microwave companies are saying, you want us because we're the Tesla of microwaves. When I hear that in marketing, I'm like, they've won.
Yeah.
And how much money has Tesla spent in marketing? How many ads have they run? How many Super Bowl ads has Tesla run? 0. Why? Because their stuff just works. So I think that's kind of where the line has been drawn and what's really going to challenge some of these companies to stay in business.
That's amazing. The last time you heard anything like that was that's the Cadillac of toasters. That's the Cadillac of televisions, you know. You're right. And that's an old expression. Like people now are like, what? What does it mean? What's that Cadillac? You know, Cadillacs are amazing. No, Tesla has raised the bar to a whole different thing. I had a conversation with Jean Paul from Patron Tequila, and then he's also Paul Mitchell, and he's a bunch of other companies. And he was very successful in that sense of he was just focused on community, and he never did an ad, he never did any placements, he never did anything. And everybody just started talking Patron, because when he brought it out in 1987, there was no premium tequila. It was Jose Cuervo. And we remember how bad Jose Cuervo, the regular stuff. So he brought this premium tequila, and he, smile on his face and barred bar and walked. And it's just the service and convenience.
You've done the same. I mean, what they've done and what he's done and what Tesla's done is what Apple did. They created a customer became a fan. And that fan then became a sales rep at the end of the day. So early on, when I first got my Tesla, and I would pull up to a station and start charging up, people would come over and look at the car. Automatically, my Tesla owner hat came off, and I was like repping the car pretty much. And by the way, did you know that I have a link if you buy one? Here, you can buy it under my link. Because at the end of the day, they motivated you to use your link so you can get bonus, gifts, what they call the loot box, right? A loot box that you used to get. And I know one guy who started this little group on Facebook called Tesla Tips and Tricks. I was an admin in a group for a while. And the guy has over 60,000 followers. He has right now a Roadster under his name that's going to be gifted to him because of the amount of referrals that he's gotten.
Wow.
So they did all this, they built a good product. They built a good following. They demonstrated what they want. I think another thing that is what Elon does is, I remember early on when the first two superchargers, remember the queues that we had where people used to leave their cars at the supercharger? And you're just like, what the hell's going on here? This guy finished charging like 2 hours ago and he's still here. So a guy out of the Bay Area, hey, Elon, can you do something about this whole supercharger thing? People are just leaving their cars here. He goes, don't worry, I'll take care of it. 2 weeks later, he downloads an update where basically they were charging you $4 a minute every time you left the car more than 10 minutes
after the charge.
Exactly. That problem went away. So
is that what it is right now? It's $4 a minute.
I don't know. I don't know, but there is an idle fee, which is
I know.
They'll charge you
it's
whatever
like
the rate is, and it may vary depending on where you are. But
yeah, so
you don't want to leave your car.
I like that he responded or they took into consideration what people were asking. How about doing this? How about doing that? So it made that experience just that much better.
Yeah,
for the consumer or the end user, as I call him, or the driver.
So check this out. This sounds so dumb, but fuck it. I lost a key. I have my Tesla. I have my spare key somewhere in the car. I can't find it. I cannot find it.
Get in the car, still starts and runs.
Yeah,
and everything.
100%. I can't fucking find that key. Anyways, so we left the car outside. We, not me. We left the car outside, and somebody went into the car, and you know they. Anyways, when we get back in, papers are all over the place, and that. You know what they stole? The adapter.
The charger?
The charger.
The converter from J.
The converter. Yeah, they just took that, and then we need it here for the building. And I'm like, I have no way. So I haven't been able to charge the Tesla for like 4 or 5 days.
Well, check this out.
But they stole that. And you know what that means, right? It was another Tesla owner.
Yeah,
that
who
took
knew
it.
what was going on. He knew what
It
he was
had to
looking
be.
for.
Like, what the fuck is another guy going to be? Or there's like a
junkie
a junkie Tesla. He's like, yeah. He's in the coming out of the bushes.
So,
hey,
so here's
Tesla
another
that?
interesting story. There's a famous singer down in South America who had a Tesla, and he did the same thing. He left his key in there and happened to be parked in front of another Tesla, same color as his, that also had the key there. So he left. He got into the wrong car. He took off on the wrong car. Obviously, the owner of the Tesla that got stolen is like, my Tesla's been stolen. The police track the car all the way to this guy's house. They go, hey, you stole somebody's car. No, that's my car out there. No, that's not your car. That's somebody else's car. Make a long story short, he took the wrong freaking car because the key was inside. When you did the story about my key left inside,
it's so slippery and whatever. Let's end this podcast real quick with one more thing. I'm gonna jump back to the motorcycles. What's your favorite technology gear that you guys like rock? Like Cena headphone? Do you do any Bluetooth? Airbag vests.
I'm a big fan of the protective gear. You know what I mean? So, unfortunately, I've had one motorcycle accident where I got a few broken ribs, broken collarbone, spent a few days in the hospital. So, I would rather wear the protective gear than either A, not ride, or B, be kind of afraid to ride the way I like to ride. So, I'm gonna go with our air vest. I think that's some pretty cool technology. It's basically an airbag that you wear as an inner layer. It's a kind of a vest. It's a zip up. There's a couple different brands that will inflate, pretty much protect your core. Some have shoulders, bags that will protect your collarbone area. Some inflate around the neck to protect the neck area. They all have back protection. The technology, though, is really space age. It's the same gear that they wear in MotoGP and professional racing on the track. The guts of it are so high tech that it's going to sense when you're about to crash and inflate before you hit the ground. And I've never had a false deployment.
This is the one that has a subscription service, right?
No. Ours is by Alpine Stars. It's called Tech Air 5. It's one of the major brands that's out there. We just bought ours outright. There's a couple different sales models. One has a subscription fee. They're also connected, so they have an app. You can update them online, just like you do anything else. But they're super smart. Like I said, I've never had one. I've never had a false deployment. So when you zip it up and you turn it on, it's just another layer of protection that makes you feel good.
And it gives you that much more confidence when you're on the road. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to get cocky on the road, because I always tell people, you treat a motorcycle like you treat a loaded gun. You just the most respect possible. And what I like, what he said is it's also configurable. So you're taking it away now.
No, I just want to show the camera.
Okay. It has bullets. It shoots. So
poke an eye out.
So what I like about it is that you can put the vest in modes. So
right.
You can tell, hey, I'm going to be in the track today. So the bike, the vest itself will totally change its algorithm to be appropriate for track riding versus, I'm going to be on the city driving.
Right,
so,
wake and stuff.
Exactly. So there's all kinds of stuff. So that's what I like about and he's the one who introduced me to it. I mean, I normally had a real thick leather jacket with the plating on it and stuff like that. Dude, you got to get this. And like 3 months later, I got my Tech Air 5 and I cannot ride without it now. If I ride without it, I feel kind of edgy.
Naked.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine if you wreck nowadays and you got all busted up in these areas where an airbag could protect you, and you're like, oh, that was stupid. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how many thousands of dollars you're going to spend in hotel bills and recovering and stuff like that. I would much rather invest it in a vest. It's just like wearing a helmet. It just becomes another layer of gear.
And it's not it's not a $multi-thousand technology. I mean, back 5-6 years ago when the technology was at MotoGP, yeah, you were talking about what a racer used to have, $2,000-$3,000 vest. These things now are sub $500, sub $400.
No, it's totally worth it. I'm all about.
I mean,
gear.
if your life is worth $500, $600, then do it.
Look, I'm the first one that tells anybody, if you're going to get on a motorcycle, make sure you have like $2-3 grand to buy gear. Period.
Yeah, absolutely. Why would you not?
Yeah, and if you're just buying a bike, like, oh, like you're, it's not worth it. It really isn't worth it, and that's why I wanted to end it like this. Like, what's some of your favorite gear? So I just found out about the vest. I haven't done the purchase yet, but I will never ride a bike without a helmet, without boots, without a jacket. I mean, I have, but it's like
I feel just like Diego does now, because like you said, once you kind of see it and know that it's there and see the technology, it's now just like a helmet. You're like, even if there's a day that I'm like, I kind of feel like, because I used to ride sans everything, you know what I mean? I just go out there, and I didn't wear a helmet till I was in my 20s just because of the state that I grew up in, So now to wear a lot of gear was totally different than how I grew up. But now I'm to the point where it's like, how could I possibly justify, getting in an accident? And it may not even be my fault. I could just get cut off lane splitting.
Easy.
But to not have it on, what I mean? It's like,
and
it's trying to justify to somebody that cares about you, like, why were you driving without your seatbelt on?
Well, here's here's the other thing that people don't understand. You can drop a bike at 2 miles an hour and you're going to hurt yourself. Okay. So obviously if you have the right boots, knee pads, suits, whatever, the more you have, the better you're going to be. Cool. I think we covered a lot, guys.
We did. Yeah, thanks a lot. And
thank you.
Reiterate, May 22nd, our rally.
Yeah, so. The rally, where can we get that information? Your website. What's your website that has, all the comparison stuff? How can we find that information about the rally?
So primarily it's on our Facebook group, which is SoCal Electric Motorcycle Owners Group. You can search that and it'll pop up. You can join it. Also, Instagram. Diego and I both on Instagram. We're communicating a lot via that.
What's your handle?
My Instagram is @Shockers EV World. So it's Shockers with a Z and then EV World. That's pretty much it. We may at some point set up a website if this thing is going to continue, especially if it grows with a lot more support. But right now, like I said, we're a group of Facebook electric motorcycle owners that just love to ride. So they're super fun. If you see any of the social media stuff, you'll just see a bunch of guys clowning around, having a good time. And it's not
V2V
stuff like that. Yeah. So it looks strangely familiar to what guys are used to.
Nice. Yeah. So you can I'm DCar70 at DCar70 on Instagram. I'm there pretty much on a daily basis. And I also have the Livewire Riders group on Facebook, which is also mirroring everything that he's posting on the rally itself. Because obviously the idea is to get as many electric motorcycle people who want to do this, but just don't feel that they can. But with a bunch of guys like us, we can kind of coach you to get you through the whole thing. And this year, it's going to be fun. It's not guaranteed that the fastest bike is going to make it. It may not be like that. And some good mentoring. We're getting some good advice from people who have done this at a larger scale. So they're kind of opening our eyes up, showing us different tricks and different things that they've had. So we want to make it an inclusive event, so everybody's welcome, and to have fun. One day, just go out there and rip the ground up for 500 miles and get there the following day, have a nice dinner, have some drinks, and the following day, do some more riding around Southern California.
I think I'm going to do my best to join you guys.
It's going to be fun. That would be awesome. It's going to be
fun. What's the dates?
It's May 21st. It's the weekend of the 21st.
Okay, it's going to be a little hard.
Why?
That's my birthday.
Dude,
26 is my birthday.
Enjoy it with us.
Oh, you'll be back.
Yeah.
You'll be back.
Okay.
Enjoy it with us, man.
I'll confirm.
Let us know. I mean,
the other thing that I would tell people is like, and we had people do this last year as well, both years. But if you don't want to ride the whole thing, don't ride the whole thing. Just join us for part of it. Like we had people who met us in Vegas. We had people who met us in Reno. You know, you can jump in halfway.
Just show up to San Diego.
You can just ride the LA to San Diego portion of it and meet up with us down there, and then ride the next day with us. So it's just like I said, it ends up being just fun motorcycle group riding like everyone does.
We don't
it
all
just
go into-
happens
we
to
don't-
be on electric motorcycles.
We don't all go in the same pack. Obviously, every single person has their own strategy.
Every man for themselves.
Pretty much.
Salvage.
So
Or EV.
that's what makes it fun. But we do have an app, Roadster is the one that I forgot that they were talking to this lady. Roadster, it's a tracking app that we kind of all joined this app, and then it shows in dots where everybody is in the map. So also at the same time kind of keeps us sane. And then we ask people to kind of post while they're doing social media if they can. Not because we want to know where they're at. I just want to make sure that they're okay. You know, so, hey, has he checked in? Oh yeah, he's okay. Let's continue then.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, bro.
See you for the next lobster roll.
Absolutely.
Oof.
Lobster.
And that one went long. How long?
Lobster, baby. I don't know, but it's almost 5.
An hour 36.